Good morning and welcome back to Down the Shore Homestead. Today I'm going to show you how to make peasant bread. Don't let the name fool you, it's actually very good fresh bread. It's a no-knead recipe, and with the way that inflation is right now and the price of bread being astronomical, I figured I would show you a low cost, less than $1 a loaf, easy to make homemade fresh bread. So as we say around here, let's go down the shore. Welcome back. To make this bread, what you're going to need are 2 cups of flour, a teaspoon of yeast, a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of sugar, and 1 cup of lukewarm water at approximately 100 degrees. You stick your pinky in, and if it's lukewarm, that's good. Or if you're not sure, you can use a thermometer to check it. To make sure that your yeast is good, I always proof it first because I don't bake that often, and if the yeast is no good, I've just wasted all these ingredients. So to test your yeast, all you have to do is add your sugar and your yeast and a little bit of water, the warm water that we have here, and let it sit about 10 minutes and let it rise, and then you know that it works. So I'll show you here. You can see that it rose. It's all bubbly. So we know that the yeast is good. So again, I added a teaspoon of yeast, a teaspoon of sugar, a little bit of the lukewarm water, waited 10 minutes, made sure it bubbled. Now what I'm going to do is add the salt. So 1 teaspoon of salt. Oh, and all you need is a fork because we're not going to be kneading. So I'm just going to add in the salt real quick. And then I'm going to add in the yeast that I proofed to make sure it was good. And now I'm going to add in my lukewarm water. So I'm just mixing this all together. I'm trying to get all of the flour off of the sides. You can substitute the sugar for honey or any other sugar type substitute if you want. You can use butter to coat the top of this loaf, or you can use honey or eggs or milk. It's up to you. It just changes the texture of the crust. This recipe is so easy that all you have to do is make it ahead of time. It has to sit for 2 hours, and then for another 30 minutes once you move it to another pan that you're going to bake in. So you can have this ready in 2.5 hours, and you can be doing that while you're making dinner. Okay, so it looks like it's all blended together. I'll let you see how it looks. So I'm going to cover this, put it in a warm spot in the kitchen. I usually just leave it on my stove. I'm going to let it sit for 2 hours. It should rise about double the size. And then we'll come back and I'll show you how to move it to the pan that you're going to bake in. It's been 2 hours, so we're going to check to see how much the dough has risen. And as you can see, it has definitely doubled in size. I mean, look at that. It's awesome. So what we have to do is get our pan that we're going to bake it in ready. I'm going to be using this bread pan. I would use a cast iron pan normally, but if you want it to look like a loaf, you're going to have to use a cast iron loaf pan or a ceramic loaf pan or this tin loaf pan. So I'm just doing this butter so that it's easier to get out of the pan. Okay, so all we have to do is just take this dough out of the pan and into this cast iron pan. Oh, now you can do this with muffins. I mean, you can make like biscuits out of this. To make it with biscuits, you would basically cut these up into pieces. If you wanted to do these as biscuits, you would just take 2 forks and separate them out like that, and then put them in a muffin pan. I would say a muffin pan because this dough conforms to whatever it's baked in. So if you want it to look like a biscuit, put it in a muffin pan. This looks like it's pretty good. Looks like a loaf. I'm not going to do anything to the top of the loaf so that you guys can see what it looks like if you don't do anything. This is basically a great beginner bread recipe because you can substitute out water for milk or honey for sugar or any other sugar substitute. You could cover the top with milk or butter or eggs to change the texture of the crust. I would keep making changes and substituting with this recipe until you figure out exactly what you like. And again, I would experiment with the different pans so that you can find out what pan that the bread is baked in is to your liking. And if you cook in iron and you're lacking iron, that's good because the iron increases by being absorbed into what you cook in it, which is a good thing, not a bad thing. So you have to preheat your oven to 350 degrees, and this is going to go in for 30 to 35 minutes. I would start at 30-minute mark and keep checking it until you think that it's got a good enough golden crust and it's done in the middle. If you tap the bread, it'll pretty much let you know by the hollowness that it makes whether it's done or not. So we're going to put this in the oven. Put the timer on 30 minutes. And Clucky will let us know when we need to check our bread. Okay, the timer went off on the bread, so let's check it out. So this is what it looks like. I have to mention that it doesn't really rise that much, but it is really tasty bread. So I'm going to take this off out of the pan, and we're going to let this cool. And you can see that the size that it makes, it's not the same size as a store-bought loaf, but I'm telling you, it's delicious. If you want to try and tweak the yeast yourself to try and make it rise more, I hope it works for you. I just know that this is how I use it, and it's cheap, and it tastes great, and it's very healthy. Healthier than the store-bought bread that is full of all kinds of chemicals. Again, if you're enjoying our journey with us, please like and subscribe, share the video out to anybody that might be interested, and put in the comments below if there's any videos or content that you would like me to create and share with you guys. That would be great. Send some hearts for Rocco because he loves to get hearts. So again, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. You want to go outside and play? All right.